Joining me now, Sheriff David Clarke, America's Sheriff. He's also a senior advisor to WeBuildTheWall.us, and he's coming to D.C. to be with us in a couple weeks, I think at the end of February. Sheriff Clarke, welcome.
John, it's always a pleasure. And good morning to your listeners.
Now, I think you're going to be here, February 25th or something?
February 24th.
Okay, so you're going to be here. We'll have you live in studio at the historic Breitbart Embassy. We're looking forward to that. You'll be at CPAC. Also, we're also trying to get you as a speaker at the May Republican Convention, which they haven't picked a location. We think it's going to be in Richmond. I told the people handling that to get in touch with you. I'm sure they will over the next couple of days. I'm at the White House yesterday. The president lays out this grand peace plan for the Middle East. The Palestinians rejected it immediately. We figured that would happen. But it was kind of a bold plan, and he called for a two-state solution. None of the media carried it. It wasn't on Drudge. I'm there, and he did. This is a historic plan, and I think NBC covered it for a minute, ABC a half a minute. It's not even on Drudge. Why is it that we can't even get the fake news to cover news?
Well, the simple answer to that is the liberal media is wetting themselves over this impeachment thing that's going on in the Senate. And I'd say thing on purpose, because that's
right.
All it is. And because there's an opportunity there to disparage the president, we know what the Democrats' game is over there. It's just to smear him. They know they're not going to be able to remove him. The media finds more value in that than covering something that, presidents before President Trump have tried. I mean, we're going back thousands of years in terms of the history of the Middle East going on, that's going on currently. And this two-state solution, this stuff has been suggested before. The problem is that the Palestinians, they don't want peace. The Palestinians do not want, they want to just keep this thing going. I mean, when they're offered, Israel has offered them, places over in the West Bank for a Palestinian state, and they just keep saying no because they want to keep this rift going. Another 1,000 years, maybe.
Well, look, we expected that the Palestinians would reject it. I understand that. Did you happen to see a clip of the CNN, Don Lemon, Rick Wilson, where they were mocking Trump voters? Have you had a chance to see that yet?
I haven't seen the clip, but I read the story. I don't pay attention to Don Lemon that the president has labeled the dumbest man on television. He is the dumbest man on television. But I did hear the story, and that's par for the course for not just for Don Lemon, but for CNN in its entirety, MSNBC. That's really how they view. I can't remember who said it. This is how, I think it was Ivanka who said, this is how they view half of the American people, with disdain, their arrogance, their smugness, because we don't think like they do and we don't drink the Kool-Aid that they serve in terms of what America should be, what America should look like. And that disdain was on display, so that's all that was. It seeped out.
I tell you what, I want to shift gears a minute and get to the impeachment trial, if I can. We're with America's Sheriff David Clarke. Let's get to the impeachment trial. This book on John Bolton, this manuscript, which is now just driving everybody in Washington bananas. They're going crazy over it. They want him to come and testify. There's been a debate over whether to get witnesses or not. Some of us think from the beginning they should be a full trial with witnesses. Let's call Joe Biden. Let's call Hunter Biden. Let's call Adam Schiff. Let's call the whistleblower. Let's call them all. There's another segment that says, look, this thing is a sideshow. Let's just acquit the president and move on. Do you think Bolton is going to testify, and do you think there's going to be full witnesses? How do you see this playing out?
Yeah, I follow it. Thanks. I follow it not intently because it really is a waste of time. It's like staying up late, watch a movie that you've seen before. You already know the ending. You're probably going to fall asleep before the end of it. This is nothing more than it reminds me of a cafeteria food fight. So the House people came over and presented their case, and then the president's lawyers presented their case, asked for witnesses, who knows? And I was reading a story in the Wall Street Journal yesterday that said privately, Mitch McConnell has indicated he doesn't have the votes yet to prevent witnesses. I think if they go down that rabbit hole and that's all it is, I think it hurts the president. The reason why I think it hurts the president, they're not going to remove him. That's not what I'm getting at here. But this thing has been a drag on his presidency. This whole thing, starting with the Russia collusion and moving on through that for 2.5 years or a year and a half, and in the impeachment here, it's a drag on his presidency, and it's preventing him from getting into campaign mode. Although he's doing a good job at it, because I've never seen a guy who can compartmentalize like Donald Trump, President Donald Trump. So he's still working the message, but at the same time, this impeachment thing is a drag on his presidency. So I think presenting witnesses opens up a new can of worms. It drags this thing on further than it should go on, and that's what the Democrats are using to create this drag on his presidency. As for John Bolton, John Bolton is just a new shiny object. That's all it is. This book, it's. They've done this before with, when Mueller was done with his report, and then it hung out there for 2 or 3 weeks, and
right.
That's what they were throwing in front of the American people as the shiny object. So the Bolton thing, I don't think much is going to come of it, even if he does testify.
Are you in favor?
And by the way, let me say one more thing, John. What's being said that Bolton has intimated, it's not an impeachable offense anyway.
Yeah, well, I mean, who cares what he says? He got fired. Look, a couple things I want to get to, Sheriff Clarke. Number one, do you think that there should be testimony and witnesses, or do you think that we just need to get the questioning over with today and have a vote and acquit the president? Which are you in favor of?
Just get the vote over. We already know what's going to happen here. Don't waste any more of the American people's time with this nonsense. Witnesses aren't going to change a damn thing. All it does is makes for good DC theater, high stakes drama when there's really nothing there. So, like I said, this is a drag on Donald Trump's presidency. The sooner they can get by this, the Democrats will have something else. They're already queuing up talking points like rigged process, rigged trial, so on and so forth. And that's what they're going to use if the thing concludes without witnesses. But the witnesses aren't going to change anything anyway, John.
All right, so no witnesses. Okay, I get it. I'm in favor of witnesses because I want to bring the Bidens in and get the whole thing out. But I don't think it matters what we think. If they can get 4 Republican votes and they force Bolton to testify, then Graham has said he's got 50. Lindsey Graham said he's got 51 votes in the Senate now to get everybody else to testify. So that's kind of the backdoor way to get back at the Democrats for this. But I can also see your point. We're all sick of it. I mean, I'm sick of the whole thing. I just want to move on to something else, which brings me to the other thing. And we've been talking about this for days, and I'm determined to bring it up to everybody that comes on. Why does the president keep hiring and surrounding himself with people who hate him, hate his policy, hate his agenda, and hate his administration? John Bolton, McMaster, I mean, I go on and on and on and on. Gary Cohen. Why does he continue to hire people that don't support him or his agenda? And when he does that with a John Bolton, for instance, the Dr. Strange love of the neocons, what does he expect is going to happen?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Thank you.
Personnel decisions will make you or break you in any position, not just president, but if you're the head of something. When I was the elected sheriff of Milwaukee County, I got to pick a staff, and they'll make you or break you. You rise and fall on the people you surround yourself with. And, the thing is, this is an example, I think, of the swamp. These are all swamp dwellers. They're all career Washington insiders. It's one big clique, and, you need some people with experience. If the president's had one shortcoming, I'd say one, it's that he didn't clear the decks of all Obama holdovers, every single one. And even if he didn't have to do it in one day, because you got to have some people around with some experience for the continuity of government. But over time, you need to replace those people, especially the ones that are the head of different bureaucracies. And I just think that some of the personnel decisions that he's made are coming back to haunt him. So when you have nothing in D.C. but career bureaucrats and career insiders, longtime D.C. established people, a lot of times that's all you have to choose from. But the thing I like in as a compliment to the president, when you make a decision and it doesn't turn out to be the right one, have the gumption, have the courage to fire that person. The hell with what the New York Times says about all the people shuttling in and out of the president's administration. You have to get the wrong people off the bus, the right people on the bus. Then you have to get those people in the right seats before you move the bus. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it takes time. So at least the president has a wherewithal to realize, hey, this guy's not working. He's got to go. Mm-hmm. Hey, this person's not working. They got to go. And these people have to remember too that they serve at his pleasure. I'm still fascinated how this woman who was the ambassador to Ukraine, they're making a big deal because he fired her. He said, "Get rid of her. She's got to go." Yeah, that's how this thing is done, and that's no big deal.
Well, it's the prerogative of the president to fire ambassadors. The ambassadors work directly for the president, the commander-in-chief, president of the United States. So if you don't like an ambassador, you fire them. There's no, this whole thing that, well, she was a career diplomat. She was an ambassador to Ukraine. He didn't want her there. He's got a right to fire any ambassador. He's got a right to fire any political appointee that he has in his government. And the bottom line is there are 4,000 political appointee positions for any administration. Clinton, Obama, George Bush, Trump. Trump has filled less than 1,000 of them. That means 3,000 are either empty or they're being filled, as you said, by Obama, holdovers. Obama had every one of them filled. Everyone. He got it. He understood the personnel as policy. And the purpose of these positions is to drive the president's agenda forward in the various agencies. So he's only got 1,000 of them filled right now. Of the 1,000, 50% of them are not Trump supporters or believers in the America First agenda. So he doesn't even have 1,000. He's got like a few hundred that are pushing him. And I'll tell you the other thing. The people that we got in there, most of them are gone. They couldn't stand it because the other problem we had is the career people, this civil servants, if you will, drove the Trump appointees out by making their jobs and life miserable. And they couldn't take it. So they got out. And so that is the big story that no one is talking about but me. It is amazing, Sheriff, how much the president has got done without anybody there. And the people he has there are throwing monkey wrenches into everything he does. Incredible.
Nothing short of miraculous what he's been able to do against the grain, because for him, he's always swimming upstream. He's always, everything is an upward climb, up a mountain to get anything done in Washington, D.C., and that he's still been able to accomplish what he has is tremendous. But, this is what you're alluding to. This is that shadow government that exists. You're right. These are career bureaucrats, career insiders. They think they run things. They think they know better than the people that we, the voters, we, the American people, put in there to lead our government. They think they're smarter, and they do undermine. And, people who don't have the will that Donald Trump has, they fold under this stuff, or they just go along, and so nothing. And when you do that, as you know, nothing changes. And that's why people ask us all the time, why doesn't anything change in Washington, D.C.? Because you have the same people running things. You have the same people who are going around the constitutional process that the president leads the executive branch, and he's in charge of every agency that comes under the executive branch. And we have two other co-equal branches, but at the same time, nobody's trying to move the House of Representatives in a direction they don't want to go. Nobody tries to move the courts in a direction that the courts don't want to go. But now all of a sudden, when it comes to the executive branch, people think that they can get this person, they can bend them to their will. Well, I got news for them when it comes to Donald Trump. It's not going to work.
Look, I think you're absolutely right. Let me read a couple of texts here. Eugene in Chesterfield says, if John Bolton testifies, then he will say something about someone that the Democrats will want to talk to. That person will mention someone. They'll want to talk to that person too. It'll not end. Also, they're going to impeach him again anyway. So let him talk to Bolton during the next impeachment. That was Gene in Chesterfield. I think he's spot on with that one. Also, Elizabeth in Williamsburg says the silver lining to the wrong hires to the Trump government is that these swamp people are being exposed to who they really are. I don't know about if that's a silver lining or not, but I'm going to keep on this, Sheriff, because in his second term, like Sheriff David Clarke should be in the administration in his second term. Corey Lewandowski should be in the administration. Dave Bossie should be in the administration. The Trump supporters that believe in his agenda should be in there doing things instead of talking to me on the radio.
Well, time will tell. We'll see what goes. We'll see what happens. But you know what? The first text that you read, that's the issue I have. This thing will go on forever because because you issue a subpoena doesn't mean that, for instance, Hunter Biden can't go to court and challenge the subpoena. And that's why I said this thing will go on, John, well into the summer. That's what the Democrats want. So I think it plays into their hands. They're better off. The Republicans, McConnell, are going to get slapped around anyway for not allowing witnesses to be called. But who cares? It's just time to move on.
I know, right? No question. Rich in Newport News says the mainstream fake news media won't report on anything that makes Trump look good. Well, no question about that. And then Jeremy in Chesapeake says when a CEO takes over a position, they fire the top staff or anyone that gets in their way. So true, right? What Trump did is, again, he brought in careerists with great resumes, like he was bringing in people to build a skyscraper or a golf course. He didn't understand that if they don't agree with his policy, doesn't matter what their resume is or what their experience is, they're not going to get the job done for him. In fact, they're going to undermine him. And it's taken him 36 months to figure that out. Hopefully in the second term, he'll turn the corner and understand getting the right people that believe in his agenda and aren't going to stab him in the back is going to be the key to more success. I mean, you look at how successful he is again, Sheriff, with the bad hires. Imagine if he had people in there pushing his agenda. Can you imagine that?
Yeah, but, in fairness, though, to the president, the confirmation process has been very difficult. In other words, some of the names that you name there, depending on the position, they may need Senate confirmation, and the Democrats in the Senate will filibuster it, will block the nomination, and so he has an obstacle there. Some of the positions are just appointed, and he can do that. But it's been slow taking the Senate didn't act quickly on a lot of his early appointments anyway, and that slowed the whole thing down. And that's the idea of Washington, D.C., is to slow everything down to a grinding halt so that no progress can be made. And that was one of the things that he was up against in terms of personnel decisions. So if he would have cleared the decks totally, I still think he should have. He'd have had a lot of vacancies sitting there, and that doesn't help either because that allows the second in charge, who are all career bureaucrats, to run things, and they're the ones that can cause you, I think, more problems because those are people you can't get rid of. The appointed people you can, but you can't get rid of so easily anyway, the career bureaucrats. And then that's the shadow government that starts to run things.
Okay, so Caleb says there's always a method to the madness. While hiring, I believe President Trump likes having people who disagree around him. It's easier to find rats in your circle when the real people as well. That is a bad idea when you're trying to run policy in the government. To get people that don't agree with you, maybe you have one in there who's a senior advisor behind the scenes just to get another point. But when you put people in charge of things and they don't agree with your agenda and they hate you and they hate your administration and they hate the America First domestic and foreign policy vision, what the hell you think is going to happen? You're going to get John Bolton's over and over and over and over like you did some of these other people. Sheriff, I'm out of time. John Fredericks Radio Network, thanks for being with us.